All right, over or under 8 wins for the AFC North. Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Cleveland Brownies. All right, Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, they made it to the playoffs this past season. Do they hit 8 wins or more or below? I personally think they're going to get over 8 wins. You know, they have pretty much the same team. Did they really lose anybody valuable in the offseason? Not really. They still have Lamar Jackson, their quarterback. Derrick Henry is really, really good at the running game. Even though he's getting older, you know, I think he's over 30 now. But they picked up somebody. Didn't they pick up somebody?
They got D-Hop.
Oh, DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, he's on there. But DeAndre Hopkins, though, in the Super Bowl, the ball was thrown right at him. He was dropping that football. So, and he's 32. About to be 33 in June.
Yeah, I think the biggest question for the Ravens is a repeated success. They've had so many years where they've done really well and following it up with a season that they were underwhelming. Just looking at their schedule, there's a lot of winnable games for them based on what they have post free agency. Right now, I would say in between the low and the high, I would say about 10 wins this season for the Baltimore Ravens.
About 10 wins this season. Also, Mark Andrews had a football thrown right to his hands and dropped it in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's still on the team.
He's still a good tight end.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just blame one. I mean, yes, he had a couple of missed catches, but the guy has been their top target, and it's not. You can't blame him for one play. There's so many things they could have done on that play against Buffalo. They could have ran it, but they decided they were going to roll out and throw it straight to him.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's a gamble.
Yeah.
And the defense, has the defense really changed all that much? It seems like a pretty solid defense. Roquan Smith.
They still have a lot of good talent on their defense.
Yeah, the big question is, can they beat the Bills or the Bengals or the Chiefs in the playoffs when the time comes?
Yeah, it's going to be a matter of repeated success and Lamar staying healthy, the team staying intact, because a lot of times, like I said, they have a really good season, and then they would follow it up with a very disastrous season, and depending on injuries, it got even worse.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a matter of, can they repeat the same success that they had last year?
Yeah. I mean, if Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry get hurt, they could completely miss the playoffs, potentially.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush is their backup QB.
Yep, that's a guy that's only going to give you so much. You're gonna rely on Derrick Henry if Lamar Jackson ends up getting hurt.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Cincinnati Bengals. They got a really good offense, and they paid a crazy amount of money to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They got their quarterback, Joe Burrow. As long as he stays healthy, do they get more than 8 wins? The defense is kind of questionable.
Yeah. I think the biggest concern is that defense, because your sack leader led the NFL, but somehow your pass rush was one of the worst in the league. That doesn't normally happen. Usually they're at the top of the league, you would have somebody with 17 sacks, another guy with 11, another guy with 5, and a couple with 2 or 3. But it was Trey Hendrickson all the way.
Yeah, Trey Hendrickson, a 5th-round pick, by the way. You never know what gem you can get in the draft. 17 and a half sacks. His first 3 seasons weren't that explosive, but out of nowhere, the past 3 or 4 seasons, he's been on it.
Yeah. And just looking at their schedule, I mean, it's going to be a matter of when, but most likely, when I'm pinpointing it, it's going to be about 6.5 wins. It's just too hard to be optimistic with this team because their best defense is literally their offense scoring points. And they're not going to be able to stop teams. I mean, that's what happened with the Ravens last year. They were just scoring at will, and they continued to score. And there's been many times where Joe Burrow made a good fourth quarter drive, and then all of a sudden, the next drive following, here we go.
Yeah, I think their main focus will be enhancing their defense in the draft in some sort of fashion. They did pick up T.J. Slayton from the Packers, who's a really good run stopper. So, they got some young players here and there. As long as they develop and they make smart moves in the draft, I think they get over 8 wins. I think maybe they get 9 or 10 wins.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's a bold statement. I mean, they weren't projected to make it to the Super Bowl when they did. So, I mean, things do happen. It's just based on what we see on paper, it doesn't look good for them. And it's going to be a matter of what happens when we get to the schedule release and where teams fall on their schedule.
Yeah.
And then we got Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph is their starting QB at the moment. And they go out and they get DK Metcalf, who's a giant target. He can get open. And then you got him on the other side, George Pickens, who's a really good receiver. Pat Fireview. That's a well-known tight end there. And they got Darnell Washington. That guy's pretty good too.
Now this team is going to take a big hit because of the fact there is no clear QB. Mason Rudolph, I know he played for Mike Tomlin, and Mike Tomlin trusts him enough, but that's not a guy that you want to put all your chips in for to make sure that you continue to have winning seasons, because I'm pretty sure Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season his entire tenure as the Pittsburgh Steelers. But to me, I think if they keep Mason Rudolph, we're looking at 7.5 wins, because I know the defense will try to keep them in games, and there's a lot of teams that if the defense takes over, it's going to be a win. But in all honesty, this might be the first season Mike Tomlin does end up seeing a losing season.
Well, in my opinion, I think they're going to get 8 or 9 wins. Yeah, the question mark is the QB, but either they sign Aaron Rodgers, or maybe they bring back Russell Wilson, or maybe they straight up draft a really good QB, and it just takes them where they need to be.
Yeah.
Offense was their biggest struggle. Their defense was decent, so they got decent weapons there offensively. The question, of course, is QB.
Yeah, and speaking of QB, the next one's Cleveland Browns. What are they gonna get out of either Kenny Pickett or Deshaun Watson? But in all honesty, that whole Cleveland crew, it's becoming a circus. I get a feeling their head coach might be on his way out, because it doesn't look good for them this season. And 8 wins, that's very optimistic if it ever happens.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Right now, I'm projecting about 4.5 wins, depending on who they have at QB, because the whole team itself is just a joke.
Yeah, the big question is QB. They spent so much money on Deshaun Watson. He did phenomenal in his last season with the Texans. Then he has legal issues. Then he actually comes back and plays for the Brownies for 3 years and barely plays for 3 years.
Yeah.
Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy is decent. Not too sure about some of these other ones, but Njoku is a solid tight end. They go out and they spend a crazy amount of money on Myles Garrett, so he stays on the team. But the question is offense. You know, you can have a great defense, but if you have no offense, you're not going to win games. So I would say under 8 wins.
You got to have a good balance. You got to have somebody to stop scoring, and you got to have an opponent that, or you can have your offense scored at moments that they need to. So.
Yep. All right. So that's the AFC North.
If you're ready to hit those like and subscribe buttons for Go Pack Go all day on YouTube, then give me a hell yeah.